how is Crawford going to be able to bridge this weight gap?
Yeah, I don't think he can, in all honesty. I mean, he might not be able to bridge it on Saturday.
Yeah.
So
one weight class.
68, yeah, but you're coming up from 35, 35, 40, 47, 54. Sooner or later, it's one too many. And 68 is definitely too many. But Crawford's brilliant. Like, he's a genius. He's a generational great. So maybe he can find a way to do it. But I feel he'd be hugely outsized against Canelo.
What do you think of Crawford Canelo? There's a lot of talk about that.
I think Canelo wipes the floor with him. I love Crawford. I told you when Crawford and Spence that Crawford would beat the hell out of him, but Canelo is a different proposition. It's an interesting fight, but I think there's
weights he could defy the odds because he's a generational great. But if I had to kind of put my money on it, I'd put my money on Canelo Alvarez to win via a stoppage.
Okay, all right. Well, man, I appreciate it.
The big matchup between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez is held in 2 months, yet many boxing professionals feel Crawford is making a big mistake opting for this fight. Despite his weight gain and confidence, some of these professionals think Canelo has the edge over Crawford and thrashed the American fighter in September. Hamza Shiraz is predicting a stoppage win for Canelo Alvarez against Terence Crawford in their fight on September 13th in Las Vegas. He feels that there are weight classes for a reason and thinks the 2-division jump that Crawford will be making for this fight will be too much for his body to handle.
Canelo's a bigger guy, he should win by size, but for you, how does that fight play out?
I think Canelo does win by knockout. I think he does win by knockout. And that's only because of the weight. You can't jump up from 54 to 68 fighting the best of the best, even though you're the best yourself. It's too much of a weight jump, man. But listen, you never know. You can't write off Crawford, but I think Canelo will knock him out.
Crawford isn't young, turns 38 in September, and he's been cheating his career as a part-time fighter since 2020. You can only get away with fighting on a once-a-year basis for so long before it catches up to you. My perspective on that is, number one, there are weight classes for a reason, said Hamza Shiraz to Fight Hype when asked about his thoughts on Terence Crawford moving up 2 weight classes to challenge undisputed super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez. And if we're basing it on their last performances, Canelo had a better performance, I believe, even though he had a negative fighter William Skull in front of him, said Hamza. And I feel like Crawford struggled a little bit with Israel Madrimov's physicality. Yeah, it was very physical, and I feel like he struggled with it.
Last 1 or 2 months, obviously, and this fight is potentially even more relevant to you because of the weight class. The Canelo Crawford fight. How do you see that fight potentially going? Is that something you, in the corner of your mind, maybe like, down the road?
I see my kind of perspective on that fight is, I feel like number one, there's a weight class for reasons, and I feel like if we're basing it off their last performances.
He landed the cleaner, much harder punches in every round of the fight. Crawford threw many more punches than Madrimov, 433 to 275, but only landed 11 more. He had Terence mentally tied in knots. You've got to remember, Canelo is a big dude. He's strong, said Shiraz. He knows how to use his size, but at the same time, at that level, you can't write off fighters like Crawford because he's so skillful. So, by going up 2 weights, he could defy the odds because he's a generational great.
Canelo had the better performance, I believe, even though he had a negative fight in front of him. And I feel like Crawford struggled a little bit with Madrimov's physicality. It was very physical, and I feel like he struggled a little bit with it. And then you got to remember, Canelo's a big dude. He's a big dude, he's strong, he knows how to use his size. But then at the same time, at that level, you can't write off fighters like Crawford because he's so skillful. So him going up 2 weights, he could defy the odds.
But if I had to put my money on it, I'd put my money on Canelo to win via stoppage, said Shiraz. It's going to be difficult for Canelo to knock out Crawford because he's likely going to be on the move for the full 12 rounds following the William Skull blueprint on how to go the distance with the Mexican star. It'll be ugly, but at least Crawford can claim a moral victory. Eddie Hearn has not only questioned Crawford's size, but he also questioned his resume, claiming Bud doesn't necessarily have the big name win.
But you have to use your movement. if you're Terence Crawford in that fight. The last thing you want to do is stand and trade. He'd be moving a lot in that fight, trust me. I'm not saying he'd be running, but he would be moving a lot. Of course, that's the way to beat him.
Yeah.
You know.
The problem is with Bud, and I said this to him on the flight, you never got the chance to build an amazing resume because there's no one for you to fight. I was winding him up. Tell me your best win. He's like Ricky Burns, that's what he said. Hearn added, Ricky Burns is my fighter, 3-division world champion. But I said, he's a great fighter, Ricky Burns, but he's not gonna go down in history, Ricky Burns, as an all-time great. You're telling me that is your best win? Finally, Hearn added that Bud could beat all the greats, but he never really got the chance. Predicting Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, Hearn said, after watching Canelo against Skull, I know it's Skull. I think Crawford is the fresher guy in there. I very rarely go back against Canelo Alvarez, but it would not surprise me at all if Crawford won that fight.
I go back and forwards, to be honest with you. Like, when I talk to Bud, I kind of like, he convinces me that he's going to win the fight because he's such a believer in his own ability, and he's very convincing. And then you see the presser yesterday, and I thought Canelo looked really well. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, he's a big lump, so I was always Canelo, then I sort of leant towards Bud, but now I'm back with Canelo, so we'll see.
Despite being the undisputed middleweight champion, Alvarez's lackluster performance against William Skull in early May raised questions about his form. Even so, Reynoso remains undeterred and is convinced that Canelo will knock Crawford out. Speaking with Eli Sekbach of Ez News, Reynoso made it clear that he sees a knockout as inevitable. We're going to win by knockout, he declared when asked about the fight. However, when pressed on which round the KO would come, Reynoso declined to specify. Whichever round it may be, but we're going to knock him out this time. Acknowledging Crawford's skill, Reynoso admitted, Crawford is a tremendous fighter, very complete, but that day, you're going to see a different Canelo.
First of all, Eddie, happy birthday to your dad. Was his birthday this week? Now, big fight September. Canelo Alvarez, the face of boxing against Crawford. What's your prediction?
Vamos a ganar por nocaut.
What round?
En el que sea, pero lo vamos a noquear esta vez.
With this statement, Reynoso dismissed concerns surrounding Alvarez's underwhelming fight against Skull, where critics pointed to his unusually low punch output. Even Alvarez himself called the fight boring, having thrown just 152 punches compared to Skull's 293. Looking ahead to his showdown with Crawford, Canelo promised, I hope September brings a different kind of fight. While Reynoso is brimming with confidence, some experts believe Crawford has a legitimate path to victory. Former trainer Jeff Mayweather believes Bud's best shot is keeping his distance and avoiding a slugfest with Alvarez.
What round did he say?
Whatever round, but they're gonna win by knockout.
Crawford's a good fighter, a great fighter, but Canelo, the best.
Es un tremendo peleador. Crawford es un gran boxeador, muy completo, pero ese día van a ver otro Canelo. He's a great fighter. Crawford's a great fighter, but that day he's facing Canelo.
That is true. Thank you, Eddie. Congratulations on the big win. Undisputed again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Saul. We're here with the
Trainer Derek Bozy Ennis echoed this sentiment, saying that if Crawford can frustrate Canelo and control the pace, he could pull off an upset victory. Predicting a winner remains difficult, but one thing is certain. If the fight delivers, the fans will be the real winners. British boxing icon Carl Frosch offered a different sentiment about this Canelo versus Crawford showdown, which he relayed during a June 17th exclusive interview with Foot Italia. That's a good fight. Crawford's bigger than you think. I just think that size matters, and he probably is bigger than the weight division he's been campaigning at. I think he'll grow into it. I think he'll get some bulk on him and he'll be comfortable in the ring, and he's extremely talented. Very skillful. He's certainly got the ability to beat anybody he gets in the ring with. I'd probably pick Crawford to beat Canelo, Froch said.
He is past his best. He's had over 60 fights. Made a fortune. Why is he even still fighting? But this is a super fight against Crawford. Yeah. But it could go wrong for him. He could end up losing. Whoever loses, it'll be an upset, because the amount of people that think Crawford's going to win. Crawford's certainly an unbelievable bad boy fighter, proper good fighter. Then you've got Canelo, who just understands the game.
Canelo is past his best altogether. He didn't look good in that last fight. He's not motivated against fighters like that, running and keeping out of the way. Why would he walk into shots if he's winning on points? He wants an easy night's work, Frosch later added. Canelo is past his best. He's had over 60 fights, made a fortune. Why is he even still fighting? But this is a super fight against Crawford. and it could go wrong for him. He could end up losing it. But whoever loses, it'll be an upset because of the amount of people that think Crawford's gonna win, and Crawford's certainly unbelievable. Bad boy fighter. Proper good fighter. Hard, tough nut to crack. Real strong mindset.
You're in my weight division now, super middleweight. How do you think me, you, prime Carl Froch, prime Canelo?
I don't know. We need to see.
No, we don't need to see. What do you think?
Wait, we will. No, I think could be a good fight. Yeah.
12 rounds.
Yeah, 12
points.
Rounds, yeah.
Split decision.
Maybe. Yeah. We don't know.
We won't say.
We're never gonna know, but
we'll never know.
We can say it will be a good fight.
Then you've got Canelo, who just understands the game inside and out. He's been in the ring with everybody, he concluded. When asked about Crawford versus Canelo, Bellew was clear who he thinks will win. Canelo likes to wait. It has to be all at Canelo's rate and pace. He's not going to get that way with Terence Crawford. I just think Crawford will outwork him and will potshot him, and I think he will win on points. I get why Canelo is the favorite, but all good things come to an end. And by the way, if I'm wrong and Canelo does defeat Terence, and he's the first man to beat him, he deserves so much credit. I will give him all the credit in the world, because no one's been able to figure out Terence Crawford yet, added Bellew.
Canelo likes to wait. It has to be all at Canelo's rate and pace. He's not going to get that way with Terence Crawford. I just think Terence Crawford will outwork him, will potshot him, and I think he'll win on points. And by the way, if I'm wrong and Canelo does defeat Terence Crawford and is the first man to beat him, he deserves so much credit.
Bob Arum wouldn't have taken the question seriously if someone asked him a few years ago if Terence Crawford would beat Canelo Alvarez. Arum promoted Crawford back then, yet even he didn't think Crawford could win against an elite-level fighter who displayed power and a granite chin on his way to becoming boxing's undisputed super middleweight champion. I think Crawford will win a wide decision, Arum told The Ring. It'll either be a knockout or a wide decision, more likely a wide decision, because Canelo is going to go into a shell. People don't realize how far back Canelo has gone. It wasn't just the last fight with William Skull, but the fights before then. Alvarez has benefited from some questionable judging since Mayweather beat him, but he is a 4-weight world champion and remains no 8 on The Ring's pound-for-pound list, 5 spots below the 3rd-ranked Crawford.
It's only one winner.
What fight would make the most? He wipes the floor with him?
What?
Is it because of the weight difference?
Because Canelo, Canelo is used to fighting at a particular level, and and I don't think that Terence can hurt Canelo, but Canelo can hurt him.
Crawford has been fighting better fighters, and Crawford has the tools to beat Canelo, Arum said. The one big asset that Crawford has that these fighters don't know how to deal with is that Crawford is completely ambidextrous. So they'll have Canelo sparring with right-handed sparring partners to get ready for the fight, and Crawford might start out fighting right-handed, but he's going to end up fighting him as a southpaw, and Canelo's not going to know how to handle that. Alvarez had some difficulty dealing with southpaws early in his career, namely Austin Trout and Arislandi Lara. I would have said that's maybe a bridge too far for Crawford, Arum said. But this isn't the Canelo from years ago, and this isn't the Crawford from years ago. Crawford is now a complete fighter.
And just lastly, Bob, I believe you've talked about it in some other interviews, but I just wanted to get Canelo Crawford. What are your thoughts on that fight? Who do you think wins?
I like Crawford in that fight.
Why is that?
I think Crawford is the better talent. I think he's a better athlete and a better boxer. And I just think he's going to win that fight. But it's a terrific fight.
Did something change your mind along the way?
Although Crawford opened as a slight underdog with the BetMGM bookmakers, Hearn favors the naturally smaller man to defeat boxing's biggest star once September rolls around, citing Alvarez's recent performances and aging body as the factors for his pick. When I was watching the Alvarez versus William Skull fight live in the arena, I was thinking to myself, I actually wouldn't be that surprised if Canelo didn't fight again. I didn't think he looked motivated, and Alvarez didn't like those comments. We didn't have an argument about it. I was just being honest. I said to him, you didn't look motivated to me. Now that's probably because it was William Skull, and Skull was running around the ring doing anything he could not to engage in a fight. That night made me really think about who was going to win this fight, because the thing is, with Crawford, when you spend time around him, he is so confident. He has no doubt in his mind that he is going to win this fight.
His
there a big UFC event? Or I don't know what. In Vegas, yeah.
And then football
college
Sunday.
football, yeah. So, but for me, I think championship boxing should be on a Saturday night. Always.
Eddie, June 14th, you back at the Garden.
Yes. Great fight.
Respect on that card. What you lining up for?
So we're going to announce the card this week. There's a huge fight for Andy Cruz on the card, and he's going to be a big statement to put him into a position to fight for the world title. Tito Mercado.
And anyone that has movement is going to cause Canelo problems at this stage in his career. When Alvarez versus Crawford was first made, I thought that Canelo Alvarez would be a huge favorite because of the size, but now I really see it as a 50-50th fight. Honestly, I'm probably favoring Crawford. Eddie Hearn, however, thinks there's one opponent for Terence Crawford who could make an even bigger fight. While he acknowledges the magnitude of Canelo versus Crawford, he thinks Jaron Ennis fighting Bud would be even better. Hearn recently discussed what's next for Boots as he moves up to 154 pounds. The Matchroom Boxing head thinks Ennis will show his full arsenal in a higher weight class and also predicted Boots to move up to 160 pounds later in his career.
On the card there as well, unbeaten 140-pounder. One of our big heavyweights as well, Alexis Barrier from Canada, Zaquin Moses, Nishant, loads and loads to Pablo as well, King of New York. Tickets are going really well. It's a great fight. By the way, Hitchens is another guy. You know, I know he doesn't have the same profile as Boots and Shakur yet, but he's another brilliant, young, undefeated American fighter. And Kambosos is bringing a lot of energy to that fight, so June 14th will be a big night.
If Hitchens is victorious, that they'll be...
Speaking in a recent media scrum, he also reveals how Ennis wants to fight Crawford. The fight that Boots really wants is Terence Crawford. And for me, that is amazing. I think Canelo Crawford is a great fight, but Boots Crawford, that's an unbelievable fight. When asked whether he actually sees that fight happening, Hearn said, probably not, because Crawford is 38, 37? I think win or lose, he retires after Canelo. Who knows?
I think so, yeah. I mean, obviously we have to see if Boots fights Teofimo, but you know, I think he's in a great position.
Is that really getting into some serious?
Yeah.
Some Teofimo?
Yeah.
Seriously in talks?
Yeah. I think if Boots stays at 147, I think he'll fight.
Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford never touched each other when they stood face-to-face Friday night at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Alvarez shoved Crawford the last time they posed for photos following a press conference Sunday afternoon at Javits Center in New York. The undisputed super middleweight champion claimed during the third and final stop on the promotional tour for their fight September 13th that he only pushed Crawford because he aggressively walked forward as promoter Dana White and others tried to separate them. Alvarez also alleged that Turki Al-Sheikh, the head of Riyadh season, instructed Crawford to get physical to attract attention to their second of 3 press conferences over an 8-day span.
The last fighters that you fought, they ain't on my level. And
I fought everybody.
The last fighters you fought since 2002.
Mention me one. You mention me one elite fighter. Just one.
You.
Oh, me. It's gonna be me.
I don't care about anybody else.
He tried to walk me back, and that just was my reaction, Alvarez said while seated on stage Friday. That's it. You know what kind of fighter I am. I always try to respect my opponents, and I think he didn't do it because he really wanted to do it. I think Turki Al-Sheikh told him, you need to do something. And he did. And now before I respect his word, because he says, oh, I'm not gonna let somebody tell me what I need to do. And he did. But you know me. I just respect everybody, but if you mess with me, it's gonna be different.
And you will see that.
So when I beat you, is you gonna be a nobody? When I stuff a mud hole in your ass, is you gonna be a nobody? Same everybody else been saying since I moved to 147, I ain't fought nobody. Every last one of them stump a mud hole in their ass and he gonna be next. Watch.
An incredulous Crawford denied Al-Sheikh asked him to do anything when he and Alvarez faced off for the second time in less than 48 hours. Turki didn't ask me to do nothing, Crawford said. I didn't touch him. Listen, first and foremost, somebody was in the room saying that I was scared of him. So I stepped to him and showed him who was the boss of this fight. I ain't scared of anyone.
I respect everybody, but if you fuck with me, so it's gonna be different.
Terence, is that true? Did Turkey Alashake ask you to spice things up?
Turkey didn't ask me to do nothing. I didn't touch him.
You know.
Listen.
Hey, we know, buddy. We know.
First and foremost, somebody was in the room.
Alvarez interrupted and identified Crawford's uncle as the man who suggested he was scared of a fighter he'll challenge for all super middleweight titles at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. "I ain't scared of you, and you gonna find that out," Crawford said. As you saw, the last press conference, when I walked you down, when you were supposed to be the bigger man. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.